I'd like to officially welcome everyone to WSI's webinar entitled Using Survey and Web Data to Improve Online Conversions, a step-by-step case study. My name is Leanna San Pedro, and I'm the Project Manager for Marketing and Communications at WSI's Corporate Head Office, and I will be your host today. So just a couple of quick housekeeping items before we kick off. Everyone has been muted, so if you have any questions, please type them into the question box. We'll have a couple of minutes at the end of the webinar to answer your questions live, but in case you miss anything during this session or just want to revisit some of the content that we discussed, don't worry, we are recording the session and a link to the recording will be sent to you by the consultant who referred you to the webinar. Now just a little bit about WSI in case you are not familiar with who we are. WSI boasts the largest network of digital marketing consultants around the world. We have offices in over 80 countries internationally, and we are equipped to, essentially become a company's one-stop shop for their entire digital marketing strategy. So I would now like to bring on Mr. Neil Lappy, who is one of WSI's longstanding and leading digital marketing consultants, and he is based out of Virginia, USA. So Neil, I'll hand it off to you to intro the session.
Great. You're going to move the slide? Thanks, Leanna. Hey, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, wherever you are. Again, my name is Neil Lappy, and I'm president of WSI Web Strategies, a franchisee within the WSI worldwide network of digital marketing companies. We've been involved with WSI for about 12 years, and we've worked with hundreds of companies over that time, helping them generate more leads and sales to grow their companies. That's what we're focused on, bringing value, bringing leads and sales to grow companies. I'm not your main presenter today, and there's a good reason for that. Chris Leone is far more talented than me when it comes to using data to improve leads and sales for our clients' companies. Chris is our Chief Operating Officer and Chief Digital Strategist. He's personally certified in Google AdWords and Google Analytics, and in 2011 led our initiative to become a Google Analytics Certified Partner Company, one of only about 80 companies in all of North America to be elected by Google for that group. Chris has led the development and execution of digital strategies for companies of all shapes and sizes, Fortune 100 companies, small businesses, etc., in all types of industries. And so without further delay, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Chris. Chris, take over.
Well, thanks a lot, Neil. Thanks for that introduction, and thank you, everybody, for being here today. Neil, I got to say, when you read it like that, my life sounds pretty good. But seriously, we don't just like doing this stuff. We like sharing these kinds of things with the world, and so we're glad that you guys took the time. This isn't going to be a very long presentation. I'm just going to take you through a story of a client that we worked with in our market. And really what we were trying to do is improve the effectiveness of their website. Now, a lot of companies try a lot of different things and invest money a lot of different ways in order to get more out of their website. That could be everything from designing a brand new website that they think looks better, or sending and buying more traffic into the website so that they can get more results out of it. But we took a slightly different tact for this particular client. And really, again, what we were after is trying to improve the number of people who contact them on the website. So in their case, they're a lawn care company, and they want leads from people who want to have a better yard. Okay, so pretty straightforward service. It's fertilization, it's aerating and seeding and stuff like that. Okay, so what we did here is we applied a few different things to learn more about how their site visitors engage with us and their competitors. Use that information to create a better version of not their entire website, but just a very specific part of their website. And then the end result is having a better online experience that improves the number of online quote requests. Okay, so next slide. All right, so here is their homepage. Okay, and this is this on the right here, this yellow form, request a free estimate. This is what we want our visitors to complete. Okay, now this form shows up on most of their pages on their website, and we know from looking at past data that on average people complete that form at a rate of 8%. So 8 people for every 100 that come into the site fill out that form. Okay. Now we know if we can get people to complete that form at, say, 12% instead of 8%, then our leads would increase by 50%. and assuming they close those leads at the same rate, the revenue increases by 50%. So we can impact a lot by trying to get more people just to fill out that yellow form without having to influence the amount of traffic coming to the website. Okay? Now, in order to improve that, we have to answer just a few questions. First, how do we stack up in the context of our competitors? Okay? It's important to know that you're always viewed in the context of the alternatives. Okay? Now, the alternatives can be your competitors. The alternatives could be other services or other methods for solving their problem. Okay? But you have to understand how you compare within that context. Okay? And the second thing we have to answer is what behavior do people take that leads up to completing that form, and what can we do to improve that experience? Okay? And I'm going to show you how we answer those two questions. Next slide, please. All right, so the first thing that we did is we had some people simulate the experience of shopping around. Okay? So we paid people to do user testing for us. Okay? These are not people that were affiliated with any of these companies. They were not our employees. They were people that we found who were representative of the target market. They were of the right age. They owned a home. They were familiar with the problem of having a lawn that was, not the nicest one on the street. Okay? So we explained to them the situation of what we were trying to get them to do. We said, here's your mindset, here's what you're looking for. Okay? Then we had them visit our website and two of our competitors. Okay? Because again, this goes back to how do we look in the context of our competitors. We then asked them to go through their process for finding information and narrating the experience as they did it. Okay, and this is a really important part. We don't want someone to just go on the website and silently click around. We want them to narrate their thought process. What do they see that attracts them? Where do they feel compelled to go? What gets their attention? Okay, we asked them what they liked and didn't like about each site and which one of the sites that they ultimately choose to contact. And through this process, we did not reveal who we are associated with. So we tried to eliminate any kind of bias that might exist. Okay. Next slide. Now, from this testing, here's what we learned. Our competitors communicated a lot more with a lot less information. We were too detailed. Our competitors did a much better job at visualizing the information that they were communicating, which ultimately made it easier to consume. Our competitors try to create this local feel even though they're not local. So, our client only serves our market, and so they can really speak up to Central Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, and then some of the outside markets that they serve. The competitors, Lawn Doctor and True Green, are national companies, or at least a lot larger. And so what they would try to do is they would try to have this reverse IP lookup, so they try and understand where you're coming from, and based on that, they would show you a local phone number. It gives this false impression that they're serving, that they're a local company, and we noticed that our test subjects not only saw through that, but it was a bit of a turnoff for them. Okay, and then finally, we learned that not one website did everything the best. Okay, there was no clear winner here. And that became the opportunity. Okay, how do we become the clear winner? All right, next slide, please. Now, after we had that information, we wanted to go back and validate it. Okay, so we don't have access to our competitors' Google Analytics, but we do have access to our Google Analytics. Okay, and what we wanted to do is see if the path that people took clicking through the site, once they got to the homepage and then they clicked through to internal pages, if the analytics data that we had access to showed something similar. Okay, so this is a standard report that you can find in your Google Analytics that shows how people move throughout the site. And this is linear; it goes left to right. And the page in the top left is the home page. So this is showing that the page most people start on is the home page, 16,000 over this time frame that we looked at. Okay. Now this red mark shows that a good percentage of them dropped off, but then this web that gets built out going to the right shows what pages they were most likely to go to next. Okay. And this is actually supportive of what we saw in the user test, which is the most likely page that someone visits after the home page, assuming they don't drop off, is this lawn care programs page. And this is a page that we have linked up from within the top navigation. There are other pages that people go to as well, but the lawn care programs page was the most popular. Okay? Now it's important to remember that people will take an endless combination of different paths throughout your website. Okay? There is no predefined linear path of someone, converting on your website. Unless you're an e-commerce site and you have a shopping cart where you have very defined stages. Unless you're that, people can, click through your site in an endless number of different ways. So we have to go back to Pareto, the Pareto principle here, which is what are the top pages that produce most of the results, okay? And then we have to attack those pages, okay? So in this case, we found that 60% of the people who didn't bounce off the home page went to the lawn programs page. So that became the page that we focused on. And this is what this page used to look like. Okay, now you don't need to be an expert to understand what's missing on this page. It requires a ton of reading, way too much reading, right? And the calls to action are these green links towards the bottom of the page, okay? And that's just not going to cut it, right? Again, you don't have to be an expert to look at this page and know that this is just, not interesting, right? Also, we have the form in the top right, this yellow form, but the issue that we have and that this form is on every page is that it could create this banner blindness effect. So have you ever heard of banner blindness where people start to ignore banner advertisements, see them so much and they just subconsciously start to ignore them? We are concerned that the same thing was happening on this page as well. Okay? So we changed the page. And this is what we created. So we used a two-column approach here to differentiate between the premium and the estate programs. Okay? We visualized it to make it a little bit easier to consume. We made it a bulleted list, right? And then we added unique calls to action at the bottom here, get a quote, for both premium and estate. There's also, which you can't see in the screenshot because it wouldn't fit on the slide, there's a block of text underneath for that person who can't decide what they need, and it says, not sure which program is right for you, contact us here. So we actually had a third call to action on this page. Now, instead of just throwing this page up and hoping that it performs better, we did a split test. Okay, and what I mean by that is we separated out the traffic, and we had 50% of the traffic go to this page, and 50% go to that original page that I showed you before. Okay. So that way we're running these two pages side by side at the exact same time, and then we could use Google Analytics to see which page is more likely to result in someone submitting a get a quote form. Okay? And all of that testing can be done in a tool like Google Analytics, okay, which is a free tool. Okay? And then after we had that, we compared the results. And here's what we saw. It's pretty remarkable. A 78% improvement in the conversion rate. Okay, so not 78 percentage points, but 78% improvement over the previous page. Okay, that equals 26 more leads generated per month by having this page on the website. Okay, and given that their internal close rate didn't change and that these customers had a good lifetime value, this new page had a very meaningful impact on their top line. And the beauty of all this is that, again, we didn't change the whole website. We didn't spend tens of thousands of dollars sending new visitors into the site. We simply looked at the page that could have the most impact. We looked at it in the context of our competitors, and then we created what we felt was the best version in our local market to show people this type of information. Okay? This was a one-time thing that we did, and the results will continue to pay dividends into the future. Okay. Next slide. Okay, so as a recap to what we did here, we watched our users engage our site alongside our competitors. We identified the weaknesses and opportunities between our site and theirs. We validated that behavior that we saw in the user testing using Google Analytics. We picked out the one page that we thought that would have the most impact. We focused on that page. Then we split tested that page against the original. Okay? We found our winner, and we had all that backed up with data. Okay? And that's the story of how we increased leads by 78% by changing one page on a website.
Excellent. And that brings us to our Q&A session. I'm going to take a look at the questions here. A few questions about what you would do next. I mean, this is the end of your story, but after that split test and the reaction and the results there, what sort of advice did you give that company?
Well, I think what's so beautiful about this really simple process that we went through is that you can apply this in different ways and to different pages. So around this time of year, and actually, maybe more so a month or so ago, the aeration and seeding, as people want to feed their lawns and get the lawns ready before the winter hits, we can apply that same process to that page as well, right? So you can do this a lot of different ways. You can also apply it to your marketing tactics as well. So that really the possibilities are endless. You just want to make sure, and this is a key point, that whatever you're testing and whatever you're trying to improve, even if you get remarkable improvement out of that page, you want to make sure that it's going to pay off for you, meaning if it's a page that people don't really go to, and even if you could double the effectiveness of that page, if it's only going to increase, leads by 1 or 2 over a month, that may not be worth it to you. So you want to make sure you focus on the areas that are going to drive high volume and high impact if you can improve by even just 20 or 30%.
Great. There's a question here from Julie asking, how can you use Google Analytics to compare results to competitors? I guess they see their stats, but not necessarily their competitors.
Yeah, so Google Analytics is only going to give you that kind of deep dive on your own website. They've started to introduce some benchmarking reports that you can look through. I'm trying to remember exactly how to navigate to them, but they're on the left side that you can find that show you how people in websites in similar industries stack up on some certain metrics, and that can be everything from traffic volume to bounce rates and things like that. That's kind of nice and interesting, but it's not, I don't find it to be that helpful. So instead of being, Julie, focused on the quantitative metrics, because there's really, I don't think, a great way to have a good side-by-side comparison, I would focus your time on user testing, which again is putting people behind a computer, having them go between both sites, have them complete one single task, and see which website is easier for them to use. I guarantee every single person on this call, if you were to put people through a user test like that, you would find at least one actionable result that you could, that you could go back and bring to your web developers in that single session. Okay, and that's something that comparing the quantitative metrics can't necessarily give you that quickly.
Great. Now, another question on split testing. Now, is this a manual process, or how did you do it?
Yeah, so Google Analytics has a wonderful tool for doing this. It's baked into the free version of Google Analytics. And all you have to do is create, let's say you have a page that you want to test. It's on the site now. It's the live page. All you have to do is create the B version, the version that you want to test against. Put that on the website. You don't have to link to it from anywhere in the website. It could be on a URL that no one else has access to unless they type it in directly. Then you go into Google Analytics and you say, I want to test this page on the website. And all you do is enter in the URLs. You tell Google Analytics what the goal of that experiment is. So the goal could be filling out a form. So as long as you have that goal set up within your Google Analytics, you say, here are the 2 page URLs. Here's the goal conversion I want them to complete. And then you put a little bit of code on your website, and then Google Analytics will run the experiment, do all the statistical analysis from there, and then report back a winner to you after 30 days or so.
Wonderful. There's a question here from Nicholas asking what the base size was for the user testing that you conducted for the website experience.
What the what was?
The base size. I guess how many users you tested with.
Yeah, we tested 3 users in this experiment.
And now a question about the particular client. I don't know if you know whether or not they did PPC and if that improved as well.
Yeah, they were doing PPC at the time. The PPC was going straight to the home page. It's now going to a landing page correctly. At the time, we weren't. They were just getting started with PPC, so it was going to the home page, and yeah, we saw similar results across the board in that regard.
Excellent. Now I have a general question here. They are saying if I notice that I have a satisfying amount of traffic from a single source, should I follow on getting similar traffic from other streams or increasing the conversion rate of that single source itself?
So yeah, just to make sure I understand, so the question is, should I focus on driving more traffic or trying to make that traffic more effective on the website?
Yeah, I think it's a question about if it's coming through one channel, say a social channel, should they focus on increasing it through that channel itself since it's so strong, or supplementing it with other driving channels?
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to making a choice between these two, do you want to keep getting more from that one or go from others, or trying to make it more efficient? You might want to just consider the cost of your different options. Again, doing some basic user testing and having a web developer focus on a single page like this is not very expensive whatsoever. I mean, it's an experiment like this, could maybe only be $3,000 to $5,000, and it's something that's going to continue paying off for you. So I don't ever advise anybody just to be focused on trying to generate more traffic into the website. I think you need to get introspective, every now and then and say, all right, how is this actually doing? How's the website doing? How can we make it better? And then you can, once you feel like you can improve some of the, some of the holes that you may have, like we did in this particular case. Then you can go back and say, okay, now I feel good about investing in more traffic sources because I feel better about where I'm sending them. But I really would recommend that if you have good traffic coming in, good volume of traffic, it's reliable, that you're going to continue to get that. So I would take the time to just focus on, okay, well, how's that traffic behave when it comes into the site? What's one thing I can do to make it perform better? Make that one change, split test it, confirm that it's better, and then, you can be hands-off with it again, and the traffic's only going to be that much more productive from it.
Great. Now, Tracy would like to know how long the whole process took with Virginia Green Lawn Care.
So I think we did, the user testing, setting up the experiment, implementing the changes. The experiments themselves don't take very long. Those are usually, 15 to 30-minute experiments, depending on how many sites you test per person. Then you have to go back. You have to kind of make sense of it. You have to find the trends. Then you have to develop pages, which if it's a single page, it doesn't take very long. Some other analysis in there. I'd say to get to the point where you're actually testing can just be a matter of a few weeks. And then to run the experiment is going to be contingent on how much traffic you have. So, if you go back to your statistic classes in college, you know that you have to, have a certain sample size and everything to validate the experiments and have the right confidence interval. So on these smaller business websites that only have, maybe a few thousand people going to them over a given period, that could take 30, 45 days or so before you have a confident result. If you have a website that's getting tens of thousands of visitors a day, you're going to get that result in, a day or so.
Great. And Julie is asking, is there a best practice as to how much info the form should ask for?
I think the golden rule that I kind of abide to is, it depends on how much you're going to give them in return. So the more that you're willing to give somebody up in return, the more it's okay to ask something from them. In this case, with Virginia Green, we're not giving them anything. It's not like they're downloading an ebook or downloading some sort of resource. They're just requesting to be contacted. So at that point, it's just a minimal amount of information that the sales team can make, that they can use to follow up with that person. So it's just, it's some pretty basic information, so it can be sorted well internally. Although if you're giving something up in return, like if instead we had some sort of content offer on the site about, here are, 50 ways a DIYer can make their grass greener, something like that, that content has a lot of value to it, and so you can ask more information from somebody in exchange for that type of information.
Great. Now, one last question, just for the sake of time here. How much money should a small business spend on these kind of campaigns?
Yeah, I think that all comes down to what you expect as a result. So, we've seen some experiments where, there was really it was like marginal impacts, very little impact whatsoever. And then we've seen other sites where, the impact is 50, 75%, maybe even 100% improvement. But if you just take 50% as kind of an optimistic result, you have to look at that and say, okay, if we can improve results by 50%, what's that going to mean in terms of dollars and cents, right? And if you say, all right, if we're only getting 2 leads a month now and 50% is going to be 3 leads a month, what kind of impact does that have? You look at that and say, well, that's only going to result in this much more revenue for me. You'll start to figure out what you can, what you're willing to spend to get something like that. Now, if you're generating a lot more leads per month, as Virginia Green was, and we look at generating several dozen more leads a month as a result, and we know what the lifetime value is, I mean, they could have easily spent, 3-4 times what they did for this experiment and still gotten a very, very good ROI out of it. So it all depends on again, what's a realistic best case scenario, which might be a 30-40% improvement, and what does 30 to 40% improvement mean for your website in terms of generating revenue, and then from that you'll figure out what you could realistically spend to get there.
Great. Now I said that was the last question, but there was one that just came in. It's pretty interesting. They're asking, did you geolocate any of the customers that TruGreen had, given that it's a franchise and you were looking at them as a competitor?
No, we didn't. No, we didn't. I mean, you certainly could. I think at this, for us, what we were testing and the type of customer that we were going after is pretty universal. Lawn care, so that wasn't. We didn't see that as a big enough issue that we wanted to geo-target our target market. The one thing we could take away from that, though, is that we know in Richmond, Virginia, that we know that local is a big thing around here. So when people did make observations about, this feels like a national company trying to target locally. Oh, I see that these other guys are local, and people observed that. We know that that statement would carry even more weight in our particular market.
Excellent. Now, unfortunately, for the sake of time, I do need to wrap up the Q&A period, but thank you, Chris, for answering everyone's questions.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
If there are any questions we couldn't get to, please do reach out to the WSI consultant that you are working with. And in case you aren't aware, WSI has just launched the 2nd edition of our book called 12 Things Every Business Needs to Know About Digital Marketing. And as mentioned, Chris's chapter dives even deeper into just how well your online data can enrich your overall strategy. So it's available through these retailers now. And I strongly encourage everyone on this call to get your hands on a copy or download it in Kindle to learn more about the growing digital trends that will help you essentially overshadow your competitors online. So as a thank you for attending, we do have a special offer associated with the webinar, specifically around a complimentary web data analysis. So basically, this will give you and your consultant a chance to dissect your analytics and uncover new opportunities that you can leverage or address pain points in your online properties that might need some tweaking. So if you have any questions or you'd like to tap into this free analysis, your consultant who referred you to this session will definitely be following up with you about this offer. Or you can always reach out to us directly and we can point you in the right direction. So we do have a couple of other digital resources for the attendees today. Here's a look at some of the complementary educational materials to supplement what Chris talked about in today's webinar. Our monthly infographic and cheat sheet collection for October highlights some of the best practices for tracking your company's online performance, just to ensure that you're getting the best return on each of your online strategies. So these are available on our site at wsiworld.com or through your consultant, of course. And last but not least, I do want to mention that today's webinar is the last one in the 2015 WSI webinar series. So thank you all for joining us this year, and we hope that we've done our part in helping all of you stay competitive. And this screen shows a snapshot of the past webinars that we ran throughout the year. So in case you missed any of the sessions, please let your WSI consultant know, and the recording along with the resources will be shared with you. But you could always, again, reach out to us directly. So that is all the time we have. Once again, thank you to both Neil and Chris for presenting today. And we hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you.